What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. We are here tonight on my most anticipated night of the year, and that is the release of Wicked. Along with this being one of my favorite releases of the year, this is the 200th movie that I have seen, which means I have officially completed Regal's 200 movie milestone for the year that they put out in January. Now, before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to follow me on all the social media pages. And without further ado, let's get into it. Wicked is my most anticipated release of the year because The Wizard of Oz is my favorite movie ever. I have seen a lot of movies in my life, and whatever reason, I grew up watching The Wizard of Oz, and it is definitely that movie that I always go back to. And I've watched it probably 500 to 600 times, if I had to guess, in my lifetime. It is such a good movie, and that's what made Wicked being released today my most anticipated release of the year. Now, I have never had the opportunity to see the actual musical, but I have read the book. And so going into this movie, my expectations were really set on how are the characters on screen going to bring out the characters in the book and from the play. Now, in this review, I am not going to get very deep into what is on screen because a lot of people know kind of what the story is and how it's going to go. But there are a few points that I definitely want to bring out. Now, looking at this movie, the one thing with the early access was it was in 3D. Early on, I thought to myself, there are some points where the 3D is shining through. It makes it intriguing. But then there was a good amount of time where I was like, maybe I shouldn't have seen it in 3D. But by the end, that whole thought process was gone. The 3D and how it was portrayed was absolutely amazing. The second part I think has to be pointed out is the vibrant details that this movie provides. From the wardrobe to the sets to the music, it was incredible. I am not a big musical fan, I would admit that openly, but this is a movie where it was just so engaging in the story that it was portraying through the actors really is relatable to what the book and the musical is. And so when you're looking at the sets and the props and the way that the actresses are playing their role, that made this movie so incredible. Now, the one thing that I believe that both actresses did was highlight some of the comedic parts that needed to be there. There were multiple times in the theater where everybody was laughing. And I will say that this theater that I was in tonight was packed. It was hard to find a seat, which is very telling of how much people are anticipating this movie and its release. Now, the third thing that I really want to highlight, and I think I am actually impressed with how it turned out, is where the movie will end. And so the hard part about that is, though, we now have to wait until next November to see part 2. But going into this, I always wondered, how are they going to cut it off and get us ready for part 2? And they did an amazing job at setting up how part 2 is going to go. Now, like I said, I'm a little biased in some sense because for me, I am a Wizard of Oz fan. This is a movie that it could have been the worst movie in the world to some people, but to me, it is going to be amazing. But I really feel that people that go and see this movie are going to leave thoroughly enjoyed, or in having that enjoyment factor there. And so the time that you spend in the theater is not going to feel like time wasted. Now, when we get into the review, I really am basing this on everything that I've mentioned so far, but also, what did I actually expect? Now, like I said, this is my 200th movie of the year. I was expecting a lot, and I will admit that this movie delivered. Now, the one thing that I am going to come back and see is this movie in standard definition. And I think part of the reason that I want to is at times in the film, with it being in 3D, there were parts that were kind of blurry. There were parts that I kept cleaning my glasses just to see whether or not they were just dirty or whatever the case may be. And sometimes that was not the factor in the situation. And so for me, that kind of took away from the 3D a little bit, but it still is a great movie. So looking at Wicked, I am so glad this movie is finally out. For me, Wicked Part 1 is a 4.7 out of 5. I think anybody that goes to this movie, whether a kid, a teenager, or an adult, is going to leave happy. Don't let the 2 hour and 47 minute runtime fool you. I don't even think that it went that long. I know it was longer. It was over 2 hours and 25 minutes, but it really didn't even feel that it was like almost 3 hours. And so I think they do a good job of breaking it up in that sense. But Wicked is out now. Definitely so glad. Highly recommend this movie. Stay tuned. I will have more reviews coming, even though I have reached my milestone. But make sure to go check out my other reviews. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to you all later.